A very good morning to all of you and welcome to the session, the Hindu editorial analysis for proficiency in English. As usual, let us start with the snippets. The very first one, trial phase of census. You all know the word trial, trail. Both the words you have to recollect immediately. Trial has many meanings. One of the meanings it goes with cases. Once a person files a case in the court, then the whole process is called trial. And here, trial phase, initial phase of census, and trail, to leave something behind so that others can find out. We use the word trail. Both the words are important. Two apps, test portal for enumeration go live. It seems something goes live, and for what purpose? Enumeration. Enumerate, an important word. Enumeration means a list out. Make a note of things one after the other. We use the word enumeration. Important word. Coming to the next snippet, probe on. You all know the word probe. Probe means investigation. Some people, they want to find out about others, what is happening in others' lives. We use the expression probing nature. But probe usually means investigation. And probe on severe GPS spoofing. I'm sure all of you know the word spoof. Hilariously imitate someone, humorously imitate someone, one meaning. Deceive someone, another meaning. Uh, Pose like a real person, another meaning. So many meanings are there. Over Delhi airspace flagged. We have got this many a time. As a noun, everyone knows. As a verb, to mark as something important. Coming to the next one, here you can see targeting Hezbollah. Israel launches strikes on South Lebanon. Israel has launched strikes, started strikes on South Lebanon. And what is the target? They are targeting Hezbollah group. Coming to the next one, parley. Parley means what? Discussion, deliberation. Is using AI-based tools for mental health useful? Using AI tools for mental health, is it useful? That's a question. To get the answer, you have to read the article. Experts discuss positives and pitfalls. An important word. Pitfall means, in a way, you can think of expressions like bombard. That's right. You can think of pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. That way, positive aspects, pitfalls, negative aspects of such tools, to what extent they are useful. And here you can see cricket players of Indian team. Men in blue take 2-1 lead. India beats Australia in fourth T20. Here T20 match 4-1, India beats Australia. Some students may get confused because match already over. And how come the heading is in present tense? And you have to know the fact that usually press people, journalists, when they want to express past and future events, they use present tense only for headlines. Do remember. Regular news item, they use actual tense. Coming to the main headline of today's Hindu paper, record 64.66% turnout in Bihar phase 1 polls. You all know in Bihar elections, two phases. Yesterday, November 6th, first phase, November 11th, second phase. And based on that, this one, record turnout. Turnout goes with the number of people attending a particular event. We use a word, turnout. But when it comes to appearing, we use two phrasal verbs, turn up and show up. Imagine yesterday someone was to come, did not come. Then we say, he was to turn up yesterday, he did not turn up. He was to show up yesterday, he did not show up. That also you have to recollect. Coming to the next, this side, the snippets, US circulates. US circulates what? Draft of UN's plan for Gaza. Circulate means distribute. Draft written one, initial stage. Center working to create world-class banks, finance minister. Center is working very hard, it seems, to create world-class banks. When you see expressions like world-class, you have to think of world-class facilities, state-of-the-art technology, futuristic technology. All these standard expressions you have to remember. Coming to the next one, we have something like CJI unhappy with AG's request for adjournments. Adjourn, temporarily postpone, and Chief Justice of India is not happy. Coming to the pick, autumn hues. Autumn, British English, American English, they don't use autumn, they use the word fall because this season the leaves fall. Both mean the same, autumn, fall. Hues, shades of color. Here you can see different shades. Exquisite corridor. Exquisite is an important word. Exquisite means beautifully made. Usually it goes with postpone means procrastination. Very good. Who is this? Somu. I appreciate that. Coming to exquisite, usually it goes with paintings and sculptures, rarely with dishes. Beautifully made, anything very beautiful, we can use the word exquisite. Exquisite corridor. Visitors relax in Srinagar's Mughal garden on Thursday as chinar trees shed leaves for autumn. Shed means to leave. Usually it goes with snakes. Snakes shed the skin periodically, once in 6 months or so. Snake shedding of skin. And here, plants and trees, they shed the leaves. That is one thing you have to know. But shed as a noun, a different meaning. Industrial shed, that is a different meaning altogether. And when you see this one, you have to recollect one important rule. English people were impressed by a few things. Anything that expresses power and strength, they attributed the masculine gender. Examples are sun, summer, winter, time, death. Anything that expresses beauty and grace, they attributed the feminine gender. Nature, earth, moon, spring, autumn. Many exams based on that, they're given the question, the spring season has its own beauty. Wrong. The spring season has her own beauty. That you have to recollect. US to reduce the flight capacity by 10% as longest government shutdown leaves airport staff unpaid. You all know there is a shutdown in the US. It is continuing, and because of that, they have decided to reduce by 10% the flights. And one more reason, they are not in a position to pay the staff. Staff unpaid, airport staff unpaid. And when you see the word staff, you have to think of collective nouns. What are the important examples? Committee, jury, staff, team, family, group. And they have two rules. Usually they take a singular noun, a singular verb, a singular pronoun. But if the sentence talks about division, they take a plural verb, a plural pronoun. That you have to recollect. That's all from today's the front page. I think we have one more. Let me check. Uncontested polls. Center says right to vote different from freedom of voting. A right to vote is different from freedom of voting. So you have to read the article to understand what exactly both mean and the subtle difference between the two. Now let us go to today's editorial. This is enrichment, and today's editorial, not too many words. First one, we have got many a time. What is the first one? Breach. Breach can be a noun, breach can be a verb. As a verb in this context, what does it mean? To break or violate something, a law, a trust, a contract, etc. Example, part of speech can be a verb, can be a noun. The company was fined for a breach of environmental regulations. Here it has been used as a noun, breach of. Word forms breached, breaching, breaches, and here it's a regular verb. Common collocations or word combinations, breach of trust, breach of contract, breach of security, breach of confidentiality, in breach of the law, the code. All these combinations are very important. You should have them at your fingertips. Synonyms, violation, infringement, an important word, contravention, an important word, transgression, an important word. All the three words you have to remember. Break, lapse. Lapse is important but not exactly a synonym. When you forget something, then we use it was a lapse on my part. That means you forgot to do something. Uh, Antonyms: compliance, observance, adherence, conformity. There's another word, confirm. CONFIRM. That is different. CONFORM. That is different. Both you have to recollect. Though easy words. Next, stark. Stark can be an adjective, can be an adverb. Here, adjective, adverb. Meaning severe, harsh, or very plain in appearance or reality. Simple word, remember, stark means clear, distinct. Example: the report presented a stark warning about climate change. Clear warning about climate change. Starkly, starkness. Both are important word forms. Collocations are word combinations: stark contrast, stark reality, stark warning, stark difference, stark reminder. Synonyms: severe, harsh, grim, blunt, absolute, clear cut, bare. But based on the context, we have to use these synonyms. Antonyms: soft, mild, pleasant, subtle, gentle. Next one, spur. This is also an important word. Lucid means a clear. That goes with a different context. Part of speech, verb, noun. Meaning as a verb, to encourage or stimulate someone or something to act or grow. The government's decision aims to spur economic growth. Here you have to think of words like stimulate, trigger, positive words, and negative words like incite, instigate, provoke. Word forms, it's a regular verb, spurred, spurring. And common collocations, the word combinations: spur growth, innovation, development, spur someone into action, act as a spur, provide a spur, on the spur of the moment. This is an important idiom. On the spur of the moment means spontaneously, without thinking, without planning. Synonyms: stimulate, motivate, encourage, incite, propel, drive. Antonyms: discourage, hinder, deter, suppress, restrain. But generally, spur goes with nudge to some extent, not exactly. Usually, spur goes with a positive context. Incite, instigate, provoke, they go with a negative context. You can use the word nudge also, but it has two different meanings. One is push someone with your elbow in a gentle way, nudge. Another one, make someone do something. Pragmatic, an important word, part of speech adjective, meaning dealing with problems in a realistic and practical way rather than by theory or idealism. One simple word, pragmatic, means what? Practical. The leader adopted a pragmatic approach to resolve the crisis. Word forms: pragmatically, adverbial form, pragmatism, and pragmatist, a noun form for a person. Collocations or word combinations: pragmatic approach, solution, policy, decision. Politically pragmatic, adopt, take a pragmatic stance. Synonyms: practical, realistic, sensible, down to earth, rational. But generally, down to earth we use in a different context. There's a great personality, very simple, modest, full of humility. Then we say down to earth, humble. Synonyms: practical, realistic, sensible, down to earth, rational. Idealistic, theoretical, visionary, impractical. That's all about editorial vocabulary. Not too many words, as I said. And today's editorial is all about food security, justice in food. There's a key word and another key word. On new EAT Lancet Commission report, it deals with a particular report, EAT, and symbolically EAT, related to food industry, EAT Lancet Commission report. So when you know it is about a report, you have to think of possible framework. It may talk about what exactly mentioned in the report related to food industry, and how much is being produced, how much is being used properly, what is the wastage, and what are the dietary habits, and what are the factors behind dietary habits, and if at all there is a problem, what is the impact, then if at all there is a problem, what is the solution. This is a broad framework. What is the main idea over here? Justice in food systems implies transition to healthy, affordable diets. Imply, tell indirectly, implied information, indirect information. So, justice in food systems, they imply, that implies something. What does it imply? Transition to, change to. Change to what? One is healthy food, healthy diets. The other one, affordable diets. Two factors: healthy, affordable. And when you see the word affordable, you have to think of two different meanings. I can't afford that car. This talks about financial ability. I can't afford to do that. This talks about a different thing. That means if I do it, I will be in trouble. Let us see what exactly the report says. By showing that food alone drives 5 of the 6 breached planetary boundaries and about 30% of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide, the new EAT Lancet Commission on Healthy, Sustainable, and Just Food Systems report shows how food systems are at the center of the overlapping climate, biodiversity, water, and pollution crisis. A lengthy sentence you may get in the exam. Whenever you come across lengthy sentences, do remember, first reading you may not be able to comprehend. Nothing to worry. Read twice, thrice, then you will be able to understand or comprehend. This talks about by showing that food alone drives 5 of the 6 breached planetary boundaries. It seems the planetary boundaries, the planet Earth has its own boundaries. When you talk about planetary boundaries, out of 6 boundaries that have been breached, 5 have been because of the food systems. 5 out of 6, that is something surprising and shocking. 5 of the 6 breached planetary boundaries, and about when you take greenhouse effect, greenhouse gases, it's in 30%. That is substantial. 30% of greenhouse gas emissions worldwide. The, the new EAT Lancet Commission on Healthy, Sustainable, and Just Food Systems. Here, just means proper, proper, something that can be justified, something that goes with. Looks like you have joined late. Initially, have given the meanings of all these words. Arvind. Just Food Systems report shows something, shows what? How food systems are at the center of the food systems are at the center of something. What is that center of something? Overlapping problems. What are those overlapping problems? Climate, biodiversity, water, and pollution crisis. Crisis singular, crisis plural. You all know that. Foods from animals account for most agricultural emissions, whereas the grains dominate nitrogen, phosphorus, and water use. It talks about food systems being at the center of overlapping climate problems or crises like climate change, biodiversity, water, pollution, all these. And now the writer is telling us each segment, each sector, what is the contribution on the negative side. First one, foods from animals account for most agricultural emissions. Second, whereas the grains dominate nitrogen, phosphorus, and water use. This sentence talks about the negative impact. Only combined action. Now, what is the solution? Only combined action, including cuts to food loss, enhanced and durable productivity gains, and dietary changes, can reverse these trends. This sentence talks about how to change the trend, reverse the trends. Certain things are required. 3 things have been mentioned. What is the first one? Cuts to food loss. I don't know how many of you know today around the world, a lot of food goes waste. Supermarkets or people individually also, a lot of food goes waste. So, how to cut down the waste? First thing, cuts to food loss, Enhanced, improved, and durable productivity gains. Enhanced means improve. Durable means last for a long time. Productivity gains. And the next one, dietary changes. Dietary changes not that easy because they're based on culture. After some time, the writer touches that point. The prediction on biogeochemical flows is stark. Prediction means what? Telling the future, guessing the future, talking about the future, what is going to happen. The prediction on biogeochemical flows is stark. Stark means very clear, distinct. Current agriculture leaves a global nitrogen surplus more than twice in excess of the safe limit. It seems current agriculture it is making a negative impact. To what extent? Where exactly the negative impact? Current agriculture leaves a global nitrogen surplus. Surplus means what? Excess beyond the limit. More than how much? More than twice in excess of the safe limit. Imagine there's a safe limit, more than twice of that safe limit, agriculture is responsible for emitting nitrogen. Efficiency gains left uncorrected by good policy can also spur more output than then erases environmental savings. Efficiency gains because of good policy, and if you don't do anything about that and they are left uncorrected, definitely that also makes a negative impact. Efficiency gains left uncorrected by good policy can also spur more output. More output problem. Always remember there's a saying in English, too good is too bad. Anything in excess is not good. More output that then erases environmental savings means it makes a negative impact. The commission is pragmatic, means what? Practical. Two, acknowledging that a response combining everything from dietary changes to emissions mitigation would still only barely return. The commission and the report, it seems the commission is pragmatic. What is the meaning of pragmatic? Practical. And why is it practical? To acknowledging something. What is it? Imagine a response combining everything from dietary changes. Imagine we change the dietary habits and we mitigate. What is the meaning of mitigate? Reduce. Emissions mitigation would still only barely return. Still, it doesn't make much of a difference. Barely. You have to recollect words like barely, hardly, scarcely. They take the word when. No sooner takes the word than. And all these are negative words. One more rule you have to recollect, when we begin a sentence with a negative word, the clause that follows should be in interrogative form. Yes, mitigate, alleviate, assuage, we have got many a time. Only barely return the world's food systems to safety vis-a-vis the climate and freshwater crisis by mid-century. Not substantially, barely. Against what? Vis-a-vis means against. World's food systems to safety. They may not reach that safety level, barely they may reach, vis-a-vis the climate and freshwater crisis by mid-century. Crisis singular, crisis plural. The pressure on nutrient security will remain. What is this nutrient security? Having food is one thing, having nutritious food is another thing. Having food, no doubt, it is a prerequisite. But the question, million-dollar question is your food nutritious? That is important. That will still remain. The security of that will remain. It does make one questionable assumption that GDP will grow 127% in 30 years, whereas policy should focus on lower growth and worse climate shocks. The GDP may grow 30 years down the line, and the policy should focus on two things. One is lower growth and worse climate shocks. They have to tackle these problems. According to the report, now coming to Indian scenario, what is happening, what are the dietary habits, and what is the impact? Writer talks about the second part of the editorial touches India, what is going on here. According to the report, India maintains a cereal heavy diet while meeting benchmarks, means standards, by 2050 entails more vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes, which could raise average consumer prices. Right now, if you look at a diet taken by majority Indians, it is tilted heavily towards cereals. But if they follow the benchmarks, by 2050, you may see other things like fruits, vegetables, nuts, all these legumes. But there is a problem. What is the problem? Affordability is already fragile in areas that import many of these foods, leaving consumers exposed to price shocks. When these are imported, obviously the prices go up, and then affordability becomes a problem. This sentence talks about affordability. It is already fragile. Fragile, we have got many a time. What does it mean? Fragile means delicate. You should also recollect the word brittle. In areas that import many of these foods, leaving consumers exposed to price shocks. Justice thus implies, here we are talking about justice in food systems. What does it mean? Justice thus implies a transition. Transition means what? Change. Transition towards healthier, more diverse diets while keeping prices in check. It should be a three-pronged approach: healthy diet, diverse diet, at the same time keeping the prices under check, in check. But changing diets may not always be desirable. It is not easy to change diets because dietary habits are based on culture, religion, caste, and you cannot change overnight. This sentence talks about that. But changing diets may not always be desirable. Preferences are anchored. Here, anchored means deep rooted in religion, caste, and convenience, and on necessity vis a vis midday meals and procurement commitments. Against midday meals and procurement commitments also. Rather than a diet first strategy, rather than means here instead of a diet first strategy, writer says a different strategy has to be taken. Then new standards can cut harmful inputs, fiscal measures can make minimally processed foods cheaper, and procurement can normalize regionally familiar, more affordable dishes. The writer says we should not focus only on the diet first. We have to take a different approach, a multi pronged approach. Talks about the important aspects. Even then, supply side reform is essential to overcome water stress, degraded soils, and fossil fuel dependence in cold chains and processing. Even then, something is required, something has to be done. And we have certain problems. To overcome those problems, we have to do something else. What are those problems? Water stress, degraded soils, fossil fuel dependence in cold chains and processing. India also needs to move away from implicit, open ended incentives to extract groundwater. Today, extraction of groundwater, it seems some incentives are there, and the writer says India has to move away from providing incentives when it comes to groundwater extraction because groundwater is getting depleted. It's an open secret. Everyone knows that. Finally, the Commission identifies market concentration, weak incentives for preventing labor and ecological harm, and undue corporate influence as factors that could stall change. Stall means a stop. Something may stop change, and these are the factors. How does it end? Justice, on the other hand, demands stronger collective bargaining by workers and small producers and consumer representation in regulatory processes. How can we bring in justice? All the stakeholders, they have to play a role, an important role. Here we are talking about workers, small producers, consumer representation in regulatory processes. These safeguards are partial at best today, not complete, partial at best today, and need to become guaranteed in practice. All these are safeguards or solutions, and they should be guaranteed in practice. Only then we can think of justice in food systems. An important article you have to read and develop contextual awareness. Now try to answer questions based on comprehension skill. What is the first one? According to the EAT Lancet Commission, food systems are at the center of which of the following global crises? You have to recollect, yes, Pravalika. Practice, TICE noun, TISC verb. It is not only biodiversity loss, it is not only pollution and water scarcity. There are so many things that have been mentioned: climate, biodiversity, water, and pollution crisis. What is the answer based on that? C is the answer. Question number 2. What is a key finding about agricultural emissions mentioned in the report? Whenever you read a question, focus on the key words. Agricultural emissions mentioned in the report, in the editorial. What is the key finding? Grains account for most greenhouse gas emissions. Animal-based foods account for most agricultural emissions. This has been mentioned very clearly. Not correct, not correct. Very good, you guys got it right. What is the writer's tone towards the Commission's approach to the food crisis? A writer's tone towards the Commission's approach to the food crisis. What does the writer think about the Commission's approach? Completely dismissive? You cannot say that. Uncritical? You cannot say. Balanced and pragmatic. Sarcastic, skeptical? You cannot say. Because sarcastic writers don't do that. And skeptic, doubting. Answer is practical, pragmatic, and also balanced. Question number 4. The report suggests that India's diet is currently. In the editorial, you come across dietary habits of Indians. Based on that, a question has been framed. What is the answer? High in fruits and nuts? No. Balanced between cereals and proteins? No. Cereal heavy and lacking in dietary diversity. Heavily loaded with cereals, and there is no diversity. If India meets the benchmarks by 2050, we may see this diversity, like vegetables, fruits, dry fruits, all these. Answer is C. What challenge does India face in transitioning to healthier diets according to the editorial? To change to healthier diets, some challenges, some problems are there, some hurdles, impediments. What are they? Easy to answer based on explicit information. Shortage of water, cultural and affordability barriers, clearly mentioned. Lack of consumer interest, overproduction, no. Cultural factors, religion, caste, all these, and also affordability, whether they can afford or not. Answer is B. The author's tone throughout the passage can best be described as celebratory and optimistic. There's nothing to celebrate here. Sarcastic and indifferent. We don't use negative words like this one. Critical and reform oriented. This seems okay. Neutral and factual? No. Humorous and reflective? No. So what is the answer? Critical, at the same time, reform oriented. Not D. Neutral and factual? No. Because the writer has given a lot of suggestions what has to be done to deal with the problem. Reforms, remedies, suggestions, solutions. Answer should be based on this C. Now coming to mini mocks, first one is error location, a bit challenging, no division sentence as such presented. You have to read and decide whether there is an error or not. And if no error, answer should be no error. The couple who were unable to conceive a second child despite medical treatment sought permission for surrogacy. Couple we can use were, we can use was. Both are correct. Here we cannot, one word is missing. Who were unable, conceive is not correct. We have to say unable to conceive, unable to do something, unable to go, unable to speak. We have to use a preposition to, unable to conceive. Very good. Go to the next one. A question based on filler. The purpose of the law is to prevent commercial surrogacy. Then restricting it for couples facing secondary infertility seems. This is a bit challenging. Please mention the question number. Already, if the purpose of the law is to prevent commercial surrogacy, the law has a purpose. What is the purpose? Prevent commercial surrogacy. Then trying to apply it for the second child, it is nothing but unnecessary. What is the other word for unnecessary? Redundancy. Based on that, if the purpose of the law is to prevent commercial surrogacy, then restricting it for couples facing secondary infertility seems redundant, not pragmatic. All these are like context talks about already there is a law, and extending that to the second child is nothing but redundant or unnecessary or superfluous. Challenging question. Word usage. Choose the option that correctly uses the highlighted word avowed. What is the meaning of that? Publicly acknowledge something. And part of speech, adjective. Once you know the part of speech, to some extent easy, otherwise a bit challenging. Here it has been used as an adverb, so not correct. Adverb not correct. Adverb not correct. The avowed purpose means publicly acknowledged purpose of the regulation is to prevent exploitation of women. Answer is B. Good, you guys got it right. Phrase replacement. The restriction imposed under the Act was considered as reasonable by the bench. The words in yellow may be right, may not be right. Correct, no improvement required. Not correct, you have to choose one of the options. This should be easy for many of our students. There's a clue. After certain verbs, what are those verbs? Consider, call, name, choose. We should not use a preposition as. Based on that, conjunction as, it can be a different part of speech, was considered reasonable. This is wrong. And considered to be, not required, considered reasonable. Being considered, considered as being, all these are not. What is the answer? A is the answer. Coming to the next one, double filler. The government's argument, I'll make the correction, we have to correct the sentence. Government argues, take it that way. Then you choose the correct option. Read as the government argues that surrogacy is not a fundamental right. The petitioners, their right to reproductive choice. A bit challenging. You have to understand the context. Although, first one, since, although it talks about contrast, since, reason, while contrast, despite contrast, whereas contrast. Now the second word becomes important. Asserted. Petitioners asserted seems okay. Rejected. Why will they reject their right to reproductive choice? Why will they surrender? Negated. Negate means to go against something. Abandoned. Why will they do all? These are all not acceptable based on the context. So what is the answer? A is the answer. Very good. Although the government argues that surrogacy is not a fundamental right, the petitioners asserted that, or asserted their right to reproductive choice. That's all for today. Very short editorial, but important editorial related to food. And you have to recollect words like famine, dry spell, drought, no food, starvation. All these words you have to recollect related to food. Fresh food, what is opposite? Stale food. Fresh opposite stale. All these words you have to think of. That's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.